Hey everyone. Well, hey, I'm back again. Stir the pot one more time, I guess, eh? Why not? And I've got a very interesting question here that somebody has asked. And where is it? Oh, yeah. Let me have another gander here. Why are love triangles so common during awakening evolution? Wow, pretty deep, eh? Okay. This one's going to be, I got to read it again. Just give me a moment here. So I'm going to kind of just, why are love triangles so common during awakening evolution? Wow, okay. Why are love triangles so common? All right. Here again, I'm going to apply this to the whole of the relationship experience. I mean, this could happen anytime, anywhere. It's not just pertinent to just the twin flame community. It would be pertinent to soulmates. It would be pertinent to an everyday relationship. Why are love triangles so common, especially during these times of awakening? Well, I think the answer to that might be in this way, and I'll try to put it into my own words. I mean, I can't use anybody else's words, and I'm not going to channel, so I don't do that anymore. I think what's happening is this. We are going through a great period of change at this particular point in time, and especially in respect to what I've mentioned before in quite a few of my videos in regards to love, relationship, and sexuality. And I think I'm trying to explain the love triangle that might be going on for, say, 2 or 3 or 4 people, or even more in some cases. You have to keep in mind here that when the spiritual awakening begins in a person, 2 of the most common things that happen is 1, the Kundalini energy gets activated, and 2, the heart center gets activated. That seems to be a commonality. Is that a new word? Is that a word? Commonality? I don't think so. Oh, if it isn't, somebody will tell me that anyways. It seems to be a commonality. And part of the Kundalini awakening is when it comes to sexual energy and a Kundalini awakening, in some cases, very few cases, there can be a complete loss of sexual energy for a while, and a person can go relatively dormant. Or in the majority of cases, what can happen is the sexual energy can be really overstimulated. I'll try to explain it this way. You cannot have Kundalini experience without an enhancement of sexual energy at some point. And in some cases, you may have people who can be really overstimulated in regards to sexual energy. Now, ideally, it is actually, Kundalini is actual sexual energy. Kundalini is the tendency to move up. And as it moves up, it opens up the chakras, and specifically it wants to get up to the heart center chakra as its first point of reference or point of origin or point of where it wants to go. And in the old days, when I went through the awakening, the Kundalini got active and it didn't go to the heart center, it went straight up into the head. I didn't have a heart center awakening until 5 years after the Kundalini energy awoke within me, but that's changed now. Now, standard procedure is the Kundalini awakening, enhancement or lessening of the sexual energy, and the very intense heart center activation all starts at once. And the other thing that happens too is this, and I found this a lot through the people that I've worked with and counseled before, is when the heart center begins to activate, as many people go through that phase of complete confusion, chaos, and breakdown of their life. And sometimes what has happened is they've already met, what they call their twin flame, or connected with their twin flame. They may already be in a marriage kind of deal. And the one thing that I know for certain is, like I said, whenever these connections happen, especially if you add in the heart center confusion that begins initially in the first phases of heart center awakening, really you have people that are going to be prone to making a lot of, I'm going to call them mistakes, but I'm going to rephrase that, and making choices that there are going to be consequences for, depending on the choices that they make. Because really, it's not really a good time for a person to start making choices at all when they're at this particular phase, because confusion is reigning. And this is why, I've said this lots in some of my videos. You'll get these yahoos up on YouTube who will tell you, well, if it's your twin flame, you should know. Okay? Well, here, picture this situation. You've got somebody who just had a Kundalini awakening, a heart center activation, and they've met a person at the same time, and they're having this intense experience together. Their sexual energy is off the chart. Both of them are married and in relationships. Both of their lives, one or the other, are falling apart. All kinds of changes are taking place. Do you think they're in a state of mind to know that this person is their twin flame? I mean, think about this, some of you experts out there, okay, who say you should know if it's your twin flame. And you could be in that frame or state of mind for 6 months. You could be there for a year. You could be there for 2 years in this state of confusion. And is it possible for you to make some choices where you might get into a situation where you get involved in a triangle? Yeah, it's very likely that you can make a choice, because you're in a state of confusion. You have no point of reference. You have no boundaries, so to speak, because everything's been stripped away. And then some yahoo tells you, well, if it's your twin flame, you should know. Okay, bullshit. Fortunately, a lot of these people up on YouTube don't last long, and they're gone, all right? And then you have other people up on YouTube, so-called experts, who have no understanding of this type of a scenario unfolding. Okay, and all they care about is getting two people together in a relationship. They have no consideration for the awakening Kundalini the person might be going through, the heart center activation, and the inability to make wise choices for themselves at that particular point in time. And these are the people that are dealing with the twin flame connection and trying to get these people into a relationship when it was probably never intended that the majority of these connections get into a relationship at all. That's not necessarily what the twin flame connection is about. But you have people who are convinced that the twin flame thing is nothing about more than getting into a relationship. That's what it's all about. So you've got all these people in a state of confusion, all right, who are not getting the proper guidance and input that they require. So the end result is the state of chaos that you see going on. Let me put it this way. Over the years, and this is a very hard thing to learn, when you're going through the initial phases of heart center awakening, and this can carry on for years in some people, and you experience that intense love in your heart center chakra, I know what it feels like. I have days when I'm a puddle, literally. And I have days when I come up here on YouTube and I do a video and I'm just a melting pot. Okay, I'm just feeling so much love coming out of me. And I can't say that I love one particular person, or I love, Nicole, or I love my son. I just love everything. I just do. But even the word love is no longer the applicable word. It's just I feel I'm at one, at union with anything and all things, is the way I feel. But the only word that I can put it to simplify, to put it down into three-dimensional linear expression and vocabulary, is love. but it's beyond that. So obviously what happens initially before you get to maybe where I'm at now, you are, and actually Nicole and I have discussed this at times, you can feel the same love that you may have for your partner. You can feel that same love for another person, and you may connect with another person just at random. And I believe people at that point, because they haven't reached yet totally the spiritual maturity or the personality traits that are necessary, are prone to making choices. And some of these choices will be what might be called the wrong choice for them, and they will get their fingers burnt. And sometimes you have to make a wrong choice, if you will, or choice that, let me rephrase that, sorry. You have to make a choice that is not suitable for you to learn the experience of the energetic connection that defines it as being not correct for you. So sometimes you have to make that choice to learn and gain that experience. Whereas another person will do it differently, where they won't make the choice that you did because they're at a different stage of evolution and spiritual growth in their personality and so on. Oh, I'm really doing a good job with this. I like the way this is going. Good, this is great. This is when I feel like I'm in the flow. So when this happens, you're going to have a whole pile of people in the twin flame community who are going to start having random heart center connections with a whole pile of people. So what are you going to do? Are you going to hop into bed and get into, all kinds of connections and this, that, and everything else with everybody? Or are you going to become a swinger? Are you going to want to get into an open relationship kind of deal? All of these things are aspects of the movement of consciousness through the expression of love and sexuality that defines the individual as making choices that they perceive is correct for them. And they are. If those choices that they make in the long run turn out to be, shall we say, non-creative at a physical, mental, emotional level for them, then they need to make a course correction. So I cannot say they've made the wrong choice, and I cannot say they've made the right choice, because there is no right and wrong in this type of a situation. It's about gaining experience. That's what it's about. Each person is unique and special. Each person, as the Kundalini energy awakens within them, like I said before in a previous video, Kundalini energy is all the same in everyone. When it moves through the person based on their personality, based on their upbringing, environment, condition of their consciousness, state of mind, and being an awareness state as it is now, Kundalini defines that as how it will manifest as experience, choices, and necessary experiences that the person will have, and make choices to define and refine that energy moving through the system that is them to a state of purity that is suitable for them and for them only. This is why I say when you're going through this phase of the twin flame connection and the soulmate connection and the soul to soul connection, whatever label you want to do, the label doesn't matter. It really doesn't, contrary to what some people would say. All right, it really doesn't matter anymore. So when this happens, this is what takes place for the individual. So after a while, what happens is when I'm working with people now, whether they feel it or not, and some do, some don't, I have a heart center connection with everyone that I work with. And most of them are online, obviously, or we're all online, to be truthful with you. And when it first started happening to me quite a few years ago, and I'm having these heart center connections, and in some cases I'm having almost like an orgasmic feeling of flowing through me, I'm beginning to wonder what the hell is going on. And I'm beginning to wonder, well, is this happening to the other person also? And in some cases it was, in some cases it wasn't. So then from that perspective, it's an individual choice as to what you do with it, kind of thing. It is not for me to say what you should do or what you shouldn't do. You must make a choice as to how you allow it to express that is based on your state of consciousness, state of awareness, and emotional mental condition at that particular point in time. The only thing that I can do is to do a video to explain to you the mechanics of what's going on, and then you have to make the choice or decisions on your own as to how you're going to do and to deal with it. All right? We're at a point now where, in reality, people are starting to understand more and more that getting into a connection with someone is not necessarily about having any kind of sexual connection with them at all. We've talked about transference. We've talked about telepathy. The big one is transference. And what I've learned from it is if you're going to have transference with another person where you share knowledge and experience through an energetic connection with that person could be on the other side of the planet. They don't have to be here. And in a few moments, you can exchange knowledge and experience. But what has to happen is the sexual energy must move up from the base, and it must move up even past the heart center, and it must move into the head, where at that particular point, both hemispheres of the brain can fire up with sexual energy, call it Kundalini if you want. And then the vibratory pattern of the two hemispheres, brain functions, that are in union with each other in the individual, and hopefully in the other individual, you have two people in union with self, who then can do transference. And the transference can take place of information, whatever. This is the true twin flame union. This is what it is. And it doesn't necessarily mean, you see, I did a video here not too long, I think about 4 or 5 days ago, of the benefits that you can derive from the twin flame connection. And it's amazing. I thought that video would really take off, and it didn't. Because people are still seeing it just as a relationship. Just perhaps as having great sex and romance with a great many of you. Many of you have gone past that point. But now we're getting to the point where the transference, okay, and the understanding of the energetic connections and these multi-connection are happening. And what's happening is when these things are happening, you're connecting, and these love triangles are happening, is people are experimenting and experience, and don't take this wrong, guys, ladies and guys, you're experiencing choices made at the bottom of the potential that's there. And that's okay. You have to learn your way up, so to speak. And you have to learn your way up that we're evolving into a highly evolved species that no longer will be predators. Okay? One of the things that I've noticed, it doesn't matter how civilized we become, whether it's in Canada, US, or any country in Europe, and we have third world countries, the more civilized we become, the more subtle we become in our predatorship of each other. Okay, we just don't make it obvious anymore, but we're predators. Everybody's preying on everybody in some way, shape, or form. Manipulation and control is going on even with the best of us at any time and every time. There's nobody on this planet who's not highly evolved who still doesn't practice manipulation in some form, or what they call narcissistic tendency. This narcissistic thing has been so overblown and outproportioned, it's become ridiculous. We're all narcissists in some way, shape, or form. And in the old days, I just called it control freak. Now we got this, like I said, I always thought a narcissist was some kind of new pickle. Until I actually found the definition. I said, all they're talking about is a control freak. I said, everybody's a control freak in some way, shape, or form. You are. You. Yeah, you. I'm talking to you. You're a control freak. Don't deny it. You are. Everybody has their little control freak space. Do you ever have somebody invade your space or use your tools or take away something that belongs to you or use your shirt or take your shoes or something like that? Okay? You'll find out how quick you're a control freak. Or you like your room a certain way, you like your office a certain way, and somebody comes in and moves something and moves it out of place. You're a control freak. Everyone is. So the idea here is when these connections are evolving and growing, a lot of people are going to make choices. Those choices are going to have an outcome. And if the outcome doesn't vibrate, and what I mean by vibrate, if it's painful or difficult, or causes you an emotional or mental upheaval, or in some cases, a physical discomfort, and that could be something they call like VD or the clap, or chlamydia or something like that. That's to be said for, hey, these kind of unions that go on these days. Like I said, the body condom and sex has become like a combat sport. I wouldn't be surprised someday it'll be at the Olympics. Take a look at the new combat sport, sex and a body condom. The latest. I just visualized it. You can see it. It's hilarious. Okay. But anyways, we have to learn. We have to grow. We have to evolve. And I know full well that the greatest blessing that you can have on the planet is making a mistake by making the wrong choice. When it becomes really detrimental is you go right back out and make the same mistake and do it again. That's what I try to do. I don't mind making a mistake, but if I make a mistake, I don't want to do it twice. And I did that in the past. I made mistakes 2 or 3 times. Now I don't do that anymore. So when these heart-centered connections, you have to keep reminding yourself that as you go along, initially in the beginning, as I've talked in the beginning of the video, as you go along and you are constantly evolved in these connections with people back and forth, and it can be, you can have a connection with a female if you're a female, you can have it with a male if you're a male. You can go from, from being bi to being gay to being heterosexual to being bisexual, homosexual. All of these things can happen for you. And they can be very confusing. So you made choices. If the choice you made doesn't vibrate or energetically stimulate you to more growth, you made the wrong choice for you. It's not about right or wrong or other people's opinion of what they think you've done in your choices. You see, here again is where belief systems, cultural behaviors, parental input, and the rest of it comes into play, and this is where a lot of guilt tripping takes place. People, generation after generation, for hundreds of years, have had certain belief systems, expectations in regards to relationships, what's acceptable, for sexuality, what's acceptable. And now you need to understand, we need to start having behaviors and outcomes for heart center activation. And you're going to do these things to learn and to grow. You are going to make mistakes. You are. I did. You're not going to be any exception. But somewhere along the line, you will learn that hopping into the sack or getting into these 3-way connections or 4-way connections or whatever you want to call it with people, you'll go to the point where you can have this wide open expression and explosion of an intimate connection with the person by never being physically intimate with them. And in some cases, you may even have the intimacy aspect in the dream state, where, of course, in the dream state, you're in a different state of consciousness, a different frame of mind. You don't require body condoms. You don't even have to use the birth control pill. You don't have to use a booty, okay? And everything is cool. So the safest place for you to have these connections is in the dream state. So if you're having them, allow them. Because the more you allow them in the dream state, the more you can grow and evolve higher. Because I'm going to tell you something that I've learned. There is much better. What you can experience in a higher state of vibration in 3-dimensional reality is far superior to the sexual expression that many of you are experiencing now. And some will say, I don't care what you say, Mel. Good old sex is all I want. Yep. You haven't had the experience of going higher yet. Once you do, you'll know what I'm talking about. And then you'll make a choice. But you can't get there until you've had your fill of the other. And you need to make choices until you reach that point and you get bored with all of the regalia that you have to go through. All right? You get tired of all of the rules and regulations and all of the playing and head games that goes on just to get laid. All right? You got to wear a condom. You got to take birth control pills. You got to use a sponge. You got to use all of this paraphernalia to protect yourself from what? From all of the viruses and diseases and God knows what all that have been manifest because of the incorrect use of sexual energy. So now this is being corrected via Kundalini energy, sexual energy in movement. That's all Kundalini energy is. It's just sexual energy in movement. Doesn't that sound nice? Kundalini energy is simply sexual energy in movement, seeking in movement to express in the higher realms of consciousness, to stimulate the mind of the individual and to escalate them and to elevate them into the blissful state of consciousness of a unified soul, expressing in a body physical, in three-dimensional linear time, in a state of balance, equilibrium, and happiness. Well said, Melvin. Well said. I like it. Write it down. Put it up on your wall, that part right there. And read it every day and watch your heart sing. And it will help you to elevate yourself to making choices for you that are creative in regards to this. All right? Because I'll share with you a little something that's going to be happening very soon with a lot of people. It's happened for me and it's happened for others also at this particular point, where the state of transference, manifesting right in three-dimensional reality, with people on the other sides of the planet, as it were, you'll be able to, out of the body, with one portion of your consciousness, connect with the other party out of the body, while you're still consciously aware in the body, physical, that you're in the out-of-body term. An emanation and a melding is taking place. An exchange of information and knowledge and creativity is being exchanged. And then movement of the outer consciousness moves back to the body physical inner consciousness. And you've experienced something beyond your wildest imagination. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about. I can help you get there. You ask yourself how many other twin flame coaches, experts can do that. Because I carry the template. Experience through the course of linear time is gained by those who are the forerunners, those who are the templators of the generations coming behind. Listen to what we have to say. Feel what we have to offer. This is not rocket science. And there is no scientific explanation for it. There never will be. There will only be messengers. Remember that. Have a great day, everyone. Love you all. Don't know what that word means anymore, but love you all.